Welcome to The World Today. I'm Waqas Majeed. Today we're talking about the recent visit of the Iranian Foreign Minister. Dr. Javad Zarif is on a three-day tour of Pakistan. We'll talk about the various meetings that he has undertaken in Pakistan and how we can explore the Pakistan-Iranian relationship on a bilateral level further. So that is going to be our first topic for discussion. Our second topic is going to be the statement that was made by a senior U.S. diplomat, that is Alice Wells, concerning Afghanistan, and when she said that direct talks with the Taliban and the United States were not possible because there was nothing in common between North Korea and the Afghanistan situation. So we'll talk about those aspects in detail as well. Another senior military general from the US, General Mattis, is also visiting Pakistan. We'll also talk about that. Let's get the conversation started. I'd like to introduce my guests in the studio. Joining me today for the conversation, first of all, we have Burhan Islam Saab. He's a retired ambassador. And along with him, we have Salman Bhittani. He's an academician. Thank you very much, sir, for being here. So let's begin with the Iranian foreign minister's recent visit to Pakistan and his invitation for Pakistan to participate in the Chabahar port. How do you view this particular invite, sir?
It's very important, the visit itself and the invitation both. Iran is our neighbor. We have a lot of things in common: history, culture, heritage, you name it. We have reason to be close to each other. But somehow for the last over a decade or two, there has been some problem with the trust. The trust building between the two countries was always emphasized by those academicians in town. Iran did, I don't know how far it is correct, but it thought that there was some involvement from Pakistani side, anti-Iran terrorists, and Pakistan also always thought that Iran was, at least if not sponsoring, not doing much to stop some sort of involvement in our religious groups and all that. So trust was an issue, and I must say this visit is very important. Pakistan and Iran, the two being two neighbors, always needed to improve relations. When Pakistan particularly has pressure from outside world, this is the time that we should concentrate on our regional countries, especially Iran and Afghanistan. Like me, many colleagues in this forum also have been saying that building relations with distant countries for various reasons become tough. Your neighbors are your best defense as well. Unless we build good relations, we can't move forward. So this invitation, we thought Iran was going a bit closer to India in the context of building that network of roads and seaport connectivity. Chabahar, we thought it could be something that Iran was doing, maybe not our direct interest. But Iran clarified in the past as well, and this time also Foreign Minister said this project has nothing to do or anything to do with Pakistan in terms of spoiling its peace and tranquility. We will not, he said, allow any country to disturb Pakistan's harmony and peace and security.
More importantly, sir, he spoke about the soil of Iran not being used against Pakistan at least 3 times.
Yes, it is a very positive thing, I should say. So this mistrust that I was mentioning when I was in charge of Iran and Central Asia 3 years ago as additional secretary, we did prepare a detailed paper for the Prime Minister, previous Prime Minister, Mr. Nawaz Sharif, giving a lot of ideas about the hindrances in the way of improving relations, identified these mistrust as one of the components. And also we did put up a lot of points and suggestions for building relations. One was first, trust, look into the details, why Iran has concerns about Pakistan. You know, they are anti in Balochistan area, they have issues. Some people used to cross borders.
There was the incident of the 11 border guards that were martyred.
That's it. At that time I was in the ministry. Terrible situation. We tried to calm down and arrange discussion between the two parties. There was problem with the mechanism of dealing with this sort of incidents. We improved it. New MOUs were signed. Now I see that trust level is improving, which is the best thing between our two countries. Once trust improves, other areas one can focus. Economy is very important. Foreign Minister Javad also identified and important thing they bring from their side is the gas pipeline project,
Right.
Iran-Pakistan. An agreement was signed, and on that basis, Iran did lay each side of the line, the pipeline. Long time ago, spent a lot of money. Pakistan, under an MOU, was supposed to start and complete the project. Unfortunately, we haven't done it. So 3 years ago, also, I remember Iran was even saying that it's a very unfortunate thing. We are two friendly countries. Pakistan is not making progress. Our issue was that pressure from the United States, because our banking sector and others were not completely comfortable, because we also, Foreign Ministry also checked with Americans as to what will they think if we go ahead with this gas pipeline. They would not say directly don't go, but will make some guarded statement saying that, you know, there's a regime in place, it might compromise that, so it would not be a good thing that you may invest money. Go ahead with the project.
Why do we need to actually get permission from the Americans to do something for our own country, sir?
It is a permission of the sort, the sanctions. So
But they didn't
sanctions,
sanction Iran when the Indians were buying petrol from them for
petrol
the last
has a
50 years or so.
I think we discussed earlier with you also that petrol has a separate situation, and if you take permission, it is possible. In our case, permission is not required. You have to make your own assessment that does it come within that rubric or overall broader terms of sanctions. If you do it, money will be wasted and other stuff. But in that process, we are also in a difficult position that one provision in the MOU that we have with Iran is that if Pakistan doesn't complete in time, it has to pay compensation.
That's right.
So they were coming in a big way, a lot of pressure. We somehow...
If they take the case to the International Court of Justice, it would be very damaging for us.
Damaging for us, for both countries. So I think we should be able to sort out it as soon as possible.
So let's get Salman into the conversation as well. Salman, now that we've been talking about our new foreign policy paradigm, we've been speaking about having greater connectivity with our neighbors, improving our relationships with all our neighbors, and in fact strengthening the regional cooperation in Pakistan's immediate neighborhood. When we come to that, we also see that we offered Iran, Afghanistan, India, all the countries to participate in the CPEC project. The Iranians showed a lot of interest in participating in the CPEC project, but they also went a step further and said that we should connect the Chabahar port to the Gwadar port through land as well as sea links so that they can both complement each other. How do you think, or how reasonable or realistic do you think this approach would be towards improving relations between the two countries?
Definitely, first of all, if we look at Iran, Iran is a very important country for us because of many reasons. One, that we live in a region where we do not have many friends. Over the period of time, we have seen that apart from India, it is Afghanistan, which is also we don't enjoy comfortable relationship with. On one side, we have a comfortable relationship, that is China, but to a surprise that we don't enjoy, or we have not been able to build great relations with Iran. There have been many reasons. Let's not go into history, but I think lately both the countries, as Ambassador Saab also referred to the environment of mistrust, both the countries have not been able to overcome that mistrust. Because you see, I recall that when President Rouhani visited Pakistan, so Pakistan chose that moment to blow the whistle of Kulbhushan Yadav. In the case of Kulbhushan Yadav is a problem. His identity and his approach via Iran is a problem. But that moment was not, I think, a very mature moment to blow his whistle. Then again, the problems of Jindullah and all these groups, they have further enhanced those that environment of mistrust. And if you study his statement, he is kind of, by the way, let me clear this point that Iranians have been really pragmatic as far as diplomacy is concerned throughout the history. They have an image of being a theocratic state and being a very kind of religious kind of state, but as far as their polity is concerned, as far as their policy makers are concerned, they have been very pragmatic. That's why today he also said that our relations with India should not be seen with a skeptical lens, the way we are not looking at your relations with Saudi Arabia. So the equation he very squarely pointed out that Pakistan is very closer to
I was
Saudi
supposed to ask you that question, but you've already answered it. So please continue.
Basically, see, that's what I'm referring to, that one, they are our neighbors. They are a Muslim country and we should have great relationship with them. We should not worry about that border or about that front. Two, they are very pragmatic. So we should also keep that in mind, that we are dealing with a pragmatic neighbor who is religious as far as the face is concerned, but that would not play much role. That emotional attachment would not play much role. And we need also we need to make this thing realize that they have been also meddling around in our affairs as well, as far as their religious activities have been concerned. So on both sides there have been problems, but lately I really appreciate, and I think we as a nation should appreciate, that when India declared that they would isolate Pakistan, then Iranian president paid us a visit when we organized that conference of Economic Cooperation Organization. And that was a surprise visit, and I'm sure that they surprised Indians as well, and which helped us and which kind of boosted up our image and morale. So Iranians have also been, there is the change of mind after Ahmadinejad. There is this rethink since they have been trying to bridge or do a rapprochement with the West and America particularly. So we should positively look at it, and if instrumentally there is no issue, because you see the Gwadar and Chabahar ports, they are at the same point literally, and as far as the market is concerned, as far as the competitive dynamics are concerned, there must be some. But if we could bridge something out, if instrumentally, technically there is no issue, then connecting to Chabahar or connecting Chabahar to Gwadar, I think that's diplomatically, politically it's not a problem, it's feasible. But since I'm not an expert, I don't know how this will go by, because we are advertising Gwadar as a new avenue of business for the region, and a new point for cooperation and connection. And we are advertising CPAC as well, and at the same time there is this new port. Though technically I know that that port is not that much deep as compared to Gwadar. Gwadar is more deeper than Chabahar. But India is banking on the geostrategic importance of Gwadar to somehow equalize, to make
Chabahar.
it equivalent, Chabahar, to present it as equivalent to Gwadar, or somehow to present it as
an alternative,
something like
which
that.
it is not,
which we think is not,
because it's because of the physical limitations.
Physical reasons and technical reasons. Keeping those things in mind, if that's not an issue politically, yes, we should engage Iran always.
But Iran has also vehemently supported the Kashmiri cause, and they're still standing by the people of Kashmir and Pakistan's principal stand when it comes to Kashmir. So that is one more thing that we can look towards enhancing our relationship with Iran on. Would you agree?
Definitely, there are many things in common, and they've been supporting us on Kashmir cause. So definitely we should capitalize on that.
All right, sir. While the foreign minister was visiting Pakistan, he was also accompanied by a large trade delegation. That is also another aspect of improving ties between Iran and Pakistan, especially trying to grow the economic dependence on each other. We have a trade of $1.2 billion a year between the two countries. We want to raise that to $5 billion, according to Mr. Jawad Zarif and also our own economists and government. How do you see that happening, sir? Do you think that that is an attainable goal? Because it is, it's quite a, one would say, a hopeful or ambitious target.
It is not. I think it is achievable goal in terms of if you understand the need and the practicality and the possibility from both sides. Iran has billions of dollars of trade with the world outside, but Pakistan's component of export is less than 400 million. And this 1.2 billion is just a recent figure. I remember it was there 5 years ago, and 3 years ago when we were dealing with the facts and figures, it came down to 800 million, less than a billion. So it fluctuates. Basically, at one stage we have been exporting fruits and rice a lot. But Iran then last 5 years, when I was dealing with the subject, I remember they stopped for a while import of rice, so our export figure had got down substantially. But if we import from Iran oil, then of course it could easily go to 5 billion, the target that has been declared by the two countries in their declaration yesterday. I recall that we also 5 years ago set a target of 5 billion, but we moved nowhere. There are barriers, there are difficulties. These are, some are in terms of logical, while others are all imaginary. Basically,
I also want to ask you this question, sir, which Salman had alluded to, that when Mr. Jawad Zarif said twice, reiterating that Iran would never let Iranian soil be used against Pakistan, and then further he likened Iran's relations to India to Pakistan's relations with Saudi Arabia. What was the underlying message that he was trying to, basically put across?
he's a professional diplomat, I recall we worked with him in New York and Geneva, a friend of Pakistan, but very cleverly he drew that similarity and good likening between these two developments. I think it's sensible. It clearly says that you have to maintain relations, with some countries special relations, but that doesn't mean that it has to be against a third country,
right,
or detrimental to your neighbor. So they said that you have to be mindful also about your relations with Saudi Arabia, while taking into consideration the fact that there is some sensitivity in Iran. Similarly, we understand that you have also some sensitivity vis-a-vis Iran.
Especially after India was given operational control, sir, of the Chabahar port. That is, again, something that Pakistan would probably find problematic.
But he clarified that it has nothing to do, it has not to be used against Pakistan. Iran also is interested in improving its contact and connectivity with Central Asia and Iran itself and Afghanistan. So that route would help, but it doesn't, Pakistan has pointed out and Iran has noted that it should not be against Pakistan. We have in the past with Kulbhushan Yadav case, we know that India has been trying to India uses its consulates in Afghanistan, some consulates in Iran. We are concerned, but we have expressed our views. We have to be careful, but I am sure two countries, now that mistrust level is going down a bit, I think both countries will take care that these things don't happen and we don't get engaged or involved, or our elements within our countries don't work against our friend with whom we want to build best of the relations. This is the time to strengthen your relations in the context of regional politics and American pressure on Pakistan. Best thing we could do, we discussed earlier, that relations with Afghanistan and Iran, Pakistan must improve. No second opinion about it. If you directly talk, we have so many common things, common elements that you could openly talk about. Look, this is a situation we must understand each other and try to strengthen our ties, not to allow third party and a superpower to play politics. So this is the time we should do it, and I think we are doing it fine.
All right, Salman, Dr. Zarif also laid out his vision for better Pakistan-Iran ties. He talked about the realization of the long-delayed Iran-Pakistan gas pipeline. He talked about establishing banking ties between the two countries, signing of the free trade agreement, and of course, we've already spoken about the two ports being complementary to each other. So why do you think we've been slacking off on this particular aspect? Why have we not worked towards establishing banking relations with Iran, or for that matter with Afghanistan and other countries with which we do business with?
I think our foreign policy priorities have been different in past, and since we have been working with the countries who have been in clash with Iran, I mean, look at America. So they have not enjoyed good relations, and then we are very close to Saudi Arabia, and they are kind of in Muslim world order, they are kind of competitors, political competitors, and they use religion, both of them.
But why is there a lack of interest on the Pakistani bank side to establish relations between the two countries?
I mean, I think that this have been problem with our foreign policy making circles and foreign policy practitioners, that they could not separate one aspect of foreign policy from other. They could not dehyphenate one compartment of foreign policy from other. Our relationship, as the Iranians are telling us, that our relationship with India should not affect relationship with you. So we should also have we should have made this environment that our relationship with Saudi Arabia should have not affected Iran, and
or our relationship with the US.
US
also should not affect our relation with Iran.
With
so
Iran.
If we want to do business with Iran or any other country, we should not be actually be dictated to by others.
Definitely.
Of what is in our own
if you
interest.
take Iran-Pakistan-India gas pipeline as a case study, so there have been issues. I mean, I think Iran has been positive about it. They have built their part of pipeline, but at some point of time we have missed dates. To this case study, I think India has also missed dates, and they've also not been very much proactive, because since this was the time when they were getting too much closer to and cozy up with the Americans. So
remind me and correct me if I'm wrong. Initially, the Iran-Pakistan gas pipeline was supposed to be the Iran-Pakistan-India.
Yes.
But now we have another replacement for that, which is the TAPI pipeline. So do you think these two pipelines that are going to supply energy to Pakistan, and now in the case of TAPI also India, how is that going to play out? Why is that more preferable, or can both be now moved forward? Because Pakistan and India are both energy starved, they would.
Waqas, I think you see energy politics has to play a great role in the region and out of the region as well. Russia has got its own interest as far as the energy politics is concerned, because you see Eastern Europe and other European countries are depending on the oil supplies and fuel supplies. Then the politics of TAPI and Iran-Pakistan-India gas pipeline. America had also its say and tilt towards TAPI, and that's why
the Indians pulled out first.
Indians
Do you
pulled
think
out
that was
first.
under American pressure?
I think so, if not pressure, but definitely the inclination was due to US. Because the timings coincide. I mean, this was the time that they were really closing, and they were not trying to bring any irritant. And Americans also, tit for tat, are doing the same thing. They are not going towards all these areas which are irritants. So at the moment, they think that they cannot afford to talk about anything which would annoy each of the party. I think that's where Iran has a point, that we should have not missed the dates, and that project should have continued. And we know that the project is in trust of all these three stakeholders, not singularly Iran. I think, and I visited Gwadar a few months back, and the local public in Gwadar was very as much thankful to Iranians, because our state has been very late to pay attention to Gwadar, frankly speaking. So they have been seeking help of Iranian authorities, and most of the time they have been, even for their medical facilities and other facilities, they have been crossing borders. So Iranian has been kind enough. For some point of time, I think Ambassador Saab will know more than I about the energy exchange. They have been giving some electricity to Gwadar as well. So these are very positive gestures, and in the lows of our foreign policy relationship with Iran have still been cooperative. I think that these are some positives which we should capitalize on. And definitely, again, Iran is our neighbor. We cannot change our neighbor, and already living in a hostile neighborhood. If we get an opportunity to strengthen our relationship with a neighbor with whom we share a lot of commonalities, I think sooner than later we should have done that. If still we are on a positive note and positive on the same page, we should continue that. We should develop our trade relation. I think 1 billion is a very, very meager amount. It should have already been 5 plus. I mean, 5 is also not a good amount. We can trade a lot, and we don't have any issues of connectivity. China is building a huge road for connectivity, and we don't need anything like that. We should have also used Iranian support to develop Balochistan, and because obviously that's very closer, and the way Iran has developed their part of Balochistan and their part of that region, Sistan, we should have also done that. So sooner or later we have to do it, and again, if our foreign policy is changing its posture, if our foreign policy is compartmentalizing things, that's fine. I mean, our Iranian relationship should not bother anybody, and that would help us also to diminish or kind of oversee their relationship with India as well. I mean, Indians have got operational control. The reason is that we are not there. I mean, our lobby is not strong. our lobby has not been playing an effective role over there because we have not built our lobby, and I think we have missed 1980s, particularly 70s, 80s, and to a great extent 90s as well, 3 decades. We have not done much work with Iran the way we should have done. Right. Yes, there are problems on the other side as well. I mean, most of our friends and our seniors who serve in Iran, they also narrate some stories.
Okay.
But definitely these should be overcome.
Well, we're just going to take a short break over here. When we return, we'll continue our conversation. So just take a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back after the break. We're in conversation with Burhan Islam Saab and Salman Bhittani regarding the visit of the Iranian foreign minister. We're also going to talk about Alice Wells's statement, sir. But before we continue on to that topic, one last question that I wanted to ask was about Afghanistan, sir. And it is all connected. Therefore, we also have a statement coming from the Prime Minister's office saying that we believe that a peaceful and stable Afghanistan is vital for economic progress of the region, and Pakistan and Iran as two neighboring countries can make an important contribution for achieving this objective of sustained peace in Afghanistan, sir. Do you think that we can cooperate on this particular aspect, because this is really a thorn in the side of the entire region?
Yes, Pakistan and Afghanistan can definitely coordinate and cooperate. Our differences on the issue of peace in Afghanistan are not big. In the past also, both the countries want peace in Afghanistan. Both the countries promote a process which should be internal, to be encouraged by neighbors, but it should be intra-Afghan process. We should seek a lasting, peaceful resolution of the conflict. So we don't have much conflict there, and nor do we have any particular side to favor in Afghanistan, or it is not in clash or conflict with the parties that Iran would support. Normally, neighboring countries support different groups. Slightly in the past, the Northern Alliance got some support from Afghanistan, from Iran, and we supported Taliban in the past. I think at this stage, both sides are pragmatic, and both sides are saying, let the one superpower and the Western countries are on the ground. Let us see what they do on the ground. If they want to fight it out, let them do it. But at the same time, we have been encouraging the parties to come to the negotiating table and find an amicable solution, bearing in mind the fact that the superpowers and outside powers can't do much as far as a real lasting peace of Afghanistan is concerned. It is the parties who have to do it. So it would be the earlier the better. They should focus on it as soon as possible.
So let's also talk about the statement by the senior U.S. diplomat Alice Wells when she was alluding to the situation with North Korea and Afghanistan, saying that they are incomparable. The main thrust of the argument that has been, we've spoken about it earlier as well, Salman, the Americans are reluctant to talk to the Taliban are reluctant to talk to the Afghan government. They say they'd rather talk to the Americans directly. And now here we have a situation developing where Mr. Donald Trump is going to be talking to Kim Jong-un of North Korea. So the parallels that have been drawn are that the South Koreans and North Koreans have already engaged in a bilateral dialogue before the Americans were able to join that conversation. So this is something similar that they're looking for in Afghanistan, where the Taliban engage with the Afghan government, and then the Americans can also be a part of that dialogue. How do you view this particular approach? Is it the same approach that should work in Afghanistan that is in North Korea?
Well, first I also believe that there are no parallels between the Korean issue and the Afghan issue. They are two different things, two different issues. Then again, I am confused about their approach, as in they've been very eager in the near past. They wanted to talk to Taliban. They wanted to bring them to the negotiating table. They were demanding a role of Pakistan, even they were demanding role of any other country to bring Taliban to the table, because they are by each passing day they are losing their territory. I think
Even today, yes, they
they've
lost a
lost,
district in the Farah province.
in the Farah province. So they were very eager, and now when after Ashraf Ghani openly kind of gave a statement that we invite Taliban to the negotiating table, we are even agreed on upon the fact that we will give them status of a political force. That statement was welcomed by all the parties. It was welcomed by Pakistan, neighboring countries as well.
But we're still going on that same trajectory, because this front that has been opened by Mr. Ashraf Ghani is very, very welcome in terms of trying to alleviate the issue in Afghanistan. So
That's what I'm saying, that it was welcomed by all the stakeholders, and even Taliban shown interest, and they were kind of positive about it, and generally they immediately would come up with a rebuttal, or they would deny the statement, or they would refuse. But this time they took some time, they give it some
there
time.
was the earlier Taliban demand as well for the pulling out of American troops from Afghanistan. That's not going to happen.
That's not happening, and that's a very old demand. But this time they showed agreement that they would be part of a talk, they would become part of some dialogue. But suddenly now we see that Alice Wells has come up with a statement that we would not talk to them directly, because I think they have this thing in mind that they had earlier given statements, and they had a very principled stance according to them, that they do not talk to people whom they call insurgents and all. I think so this will further aggravate the situation, because on one side, when you are asking other parties to play a role to bring them on the table, on the other side you are saying that we would not talk to them. Plus the kind of legitimacy that Afghan government enjoys, everybody knows that as well. Afghan government could not establish its role, its control over most part of the country. It is not enjoying a popular government. So in that case, even Afghan government as a party, instrumentally it can play some role. But politically speaking, or as far as the ownership is concerned, when we use this term Afghan-led, Afghan-owned, this is also a very complicated term. Which Afghan-led, who Afghan-led and Afghan-owned? The Afghan, those who are leading Afghanistan, who cannot move out of Kabul, or who have two executive heads, or who have a lot of issues of management, mismanagement and corruption, or the Afghanistan which is under control of Taliban, and or the Afghanistan which is going under the control of other forces like Daesh. So this is also a problematic statement. I think Americans should come up with a strategy which bring them closer to all the stakeholders, and which helps to start the negotiation dialogue, at least to stop the carnage, to stop.
Well, there are some positive notes emanating out of Washington as well, especially what you're saying in that sort of vein. They've talked about, maybe restarting or resuming the quadrilateral dialogue process, which includes Pakistan, Afghanistan, China, and the US, of course. So that is something that might be welcome. Burhan Saab, in your opinion, China is a very important player within the region and beyond. So that is something that the Americans also understand quite well. So what's stopping them from actually moving the quadrilateral dialogue process forward?
I think for that, Alice Wells has mentioned also that they would be asking concerned parties to do everything possible to reinitiate, restart this quadrilateral process. I think that's a positive sign. But we should understand that America is a superpower. For it to go kneel down in a way that start talking to the Taliban directly is not an easy deal. It will have to understand that. That's why it wants to actually see the ground situation and have a sense as to the bottom line of that party, your interlocutor, and the arrows available on the quiver. So we have to see what the Taliban can do, how far they can do on the ground 43, 48% of the territory under their control. So Americans will have to think many times.
So after Alice Wells' statement, which came out yesterday or day before, we also have the U.S. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis visiting Kabul in an unannounced visit, and there are also reports that there are elements within the Taliban which are open to talks with the Afghan government, and that is also a claim that was made by the Secretary of Defense Jim Mattis. So that's again a positive sign. How can this positive environment be taken forward in terms of having some concrete solutions being brought forward out of it?
We need more positive statements. For example, if the general was giving a positive statement, Alice's statement created some confusion. Actually, if you are serious, it happens in diplomacy. One side, one group, or one organization of a government gives one sort of statement, another one will be conflicting with that. It's part of diplomacy. And you should not try to read
too much
into those, or don't read too much between the lines. So it happens like that. I think Americans are interested, but they want to see how far the Taliban are prepared and what is their situation on the ground.
When we talk about having an enduring, lasting peace in Afghanistan, and it is in the interests of both the Taliban and the Northern Alliance or the rest of the Afghan population, this effort or this attempt by President Ashraf Ghani to open a peace dialogue with the Taliban, why is it not being welcomed by the Taliban, sir? They have not given any formal response to this initiative that has been taken by Ashraf Ghani.
But if you recall, they said Ashraf Ghani would write a formal proposal on that. So I think Taliban are waiting for that proposal to be taken on the table. They will study it and give their response. And overall,
the interest in the discussions is very much there.
I think it is there. Even quadrilateral process, if it starts now, I would see it as a positive development. Let's start.
Very interesting, sir, because Salman, in your opinion, we also spoke about the Taliban being recognized as a political party, as a legitimate stakeholder in Afghanistan. How soon do you think that this initiative that has also been taken by Mr. Ashraf Ghani can be taken forward? Why are we still just talking about it? Why aren't concrete moves being made on the ground to consolidate these positive sentiments?
I think there is this issue of trust deficit, because obviously these kind of overtures, Taliban would weigh them. And then again, Taliban at the moment are the dominant party. Taliban are in control. So they would not agree to the terms set by the government or any other stakeholder. They would agree to their own terms. This opportunity of becoming a political force, I think Taliban should avail it. One, it would brush away the negative sentiments that had developed in the masses, not in Afghanistan but across the region and globe. Because overall Taliban is seen as a demon element, as something which is this terrorist image comes in your mind because they have been using violence as means. So they can brush away that image with becoming political. They can at the same time keep their military control as well, and they can win the people of Afghanistan's hearts, and
by participating in the political process, that's the most important thing. So why do you think that understanding is lacking at the moment? Because when we speak about the Taliban, their point of view is that they would not like to talk to the Kabul government. They view the Kabul government as illegitimate, and they also view their peace process efforts as deceptive. And that they have said that categorically by boycotting the Islamic Scholars Conference in Jakarta. So why is it always one step forward and two steps back when we're talking about the situation?
They also know the politics and they play to and fro, because at one point they've been denying talking to Afghan government and not talking to Americans. At other points they have been going to Qatar as well.
But one interesting thing that has come out from Mr. James Mattis's statement, and that is the new definition of what victory in Afghanistan is going to look like, because we've heard the statement that we're not winning, it's a stalemate and it's bad news all over. But now we've got a new vision of victory in Afghanistan, and that vision is a political reconciliation. That is what now victory is being defined as by Mr. James Mattis, no less.
Taliban will be very happy to accept that.
Well, sir, we leave it at that, and we hope that this political reconciliation takes place sooner rather than later, and that is for the interest of the entire region. Thank you very much, sir, once again, for taking out the time and being on our show. Well, you heard the conversation, and in conclusion, we'd like to say that the overtures that are being made by the US and the efforts of Pakistan, Iran, and other regional countries, including China, to help Afghanistan stabilize their country and bring peace and prosperity, because that's the only way we can all move towards a better, more peaceful world. On that hope and on that note, it's goodbye.